Welcome to the module, How to Code Your Expenses to Support Your Work at Lee, the Responsibilities of a MasterCard Holder. This module is produced by Learning and Development for the use of Lee staff members and is one part of a larger series of courses offered under the auspices of Lee's Finance Department. If you have questions about the content of this module, please contact Wendy Dove on the finance team. This training is for those staff members who hold a corporate credit card and use it for expenses associated with their work at Lee. In order to be prepared for a successful session, there are a few things that you should do first. Be sure that you read the syllabus for this module, complete the pre-work, and download the documents that have been placed there to assist you. Lee prioritizes the flexibility of our staff who incur expenses in their work. Sometimes, staff who have joined Lee do not have considerable means, and if we ask them to travel frequently, it can become a financial burden. So we've offered the optional MasterCard Employee Pay System. Having a process that is explicit provides greater transparency of our workflow, and it serves to streamline the expense reporting process, making it easier for a widely distributed staff. Finally, Lee keenly monitors our responsibility to our funders and our compliance under the laws that govern nonprofit organizations. Our organization runs 20 entities: Lee, the Lee Foundation, and 16 or more PACs, which each undergo annual audits. So to be good stewards of the trust placed in us by our funders, and to limit our corporate liability, we need full, vigorous, and timely compliance in coding and expense submissions. We have 4 objectives for this module, but we know that you will need additional time to understand more about how expense reports and coding works, even after the training, and you're going to need some time to actually work on your expense report and concur. You will need the documents that are referenced in the syllabus for support, but be assured there is always someone to help you one-on-one with this work if needed. If you have any questions, be sure to reach out to the finance team. There is contact information in the syllabus. Here's our agenda for this module. We'll be following Jacqueline, who is a staff member on the strategy and operations team at Lee. First, let's set the stage by looking at Lee's primary purpose. You might know that Lee as an organization maintains tax-free status, functioning under 2 designations as shown here. There are differences in the ways funding can be expended under these designations. The laws are very explicit. Lee's primary purpose is social welfare, and we engage in charitable and educational activities, all in the service of our mission to empower Teach for America Corps members and alumni to grow as leaders in their communities and help build the movement to end educational inequity. Lee receives its funding from multiple sources, including different types of grants, meaning there are multiple stakeholders, each with specific restrictions about how the funding can be spent. In order to assure that we spend our funding in ways that satisfy our grantors, as well as follow IRS guidelines for our type of organization, our finance team has a system for tracking how our money is spent. We've established this system to be good stewards of our resources and to ensure we spend our funds for the specific pre-approved purposes for which they were intended. Let's have a look at the composition of Lee's system for coding expenses. When Lee staff are thoughtful and participate in accurately coding time and expenses, it serves to maintain Lee's nonprofit status. Without each of our participation and proper stewardship, Lee cannot continue to function and have the impact on educational inequity that we seek. So your role in coding your time and expenses is crucial. In this module, we are going to concentrate on how to properly report the expenses that you've incurred using your company-issued credit card. There will be a few slides, then a video to show you exactly how it's done. There will also be an opportunity to review and a short quiz at the end. In the syllabus, you can print out screenshots of the process as well as other supporting documents. Lee has established specific policies and procedures around the use of a company-issued credit card. We expect staff members holding such a card to be aware of these responsibilities. Let's take a look at the list of responsibilities of the credit card holder. You can see a full description of these policies in the guide for the credit card that you hold. These policies are important. They were established to support accounting rules and sound best practices that work together to protect Lee's nonprofit status, as well as our relationship with our funders. Use of a Lee credit card could be suspended if these policies are not followed. Next, Jacqueline will dive into the workflow for reporting and expensing her credit card transactions. Let's have a look at what a typical month's workflow might look like for Jacqueline. As Jacqueline moves into the next month, she has her eye on the payment due date for her July expenses. It's important to note that the MasterCard bill is due in full to the carrier each month on the 25th, no matter what. Jacqueline can mail in the payment, or she can pay it online through her bank. Any late fees will be the responsibility of the cardholder, and multiple infractions will result in the loss of the card. At the beginning of August, Jacqueline submits another expense report for last-minute July charges. She still has her eye on that payment due date. Here are a few important considerations. Again, check the guide for your credit card and speak with the finance team if you have any concerns. Next, we're going to have a review of what we've covered in the first part of this module. We're going to actually go into Concur and take a look at how to create an expense report for a credit card transaction. But first, let's check our understanding of what has been covered in the first part of this module. So we're going to go in and see how Jacqueline creates an expense report for her credit card transactions. You can follow along and create an expense report for yourself. But first, here are the basics for all reporting in Concur. In the syllabus for this module, there is a link to some basic Concur video trainings that you can use to get up to speed. You'll also find a link to the chart of account cheat sheets and the guide for the credit card that you hold. In addition, make sure you understand these elements of the credit card reporting workflow and that you have your receipts and substantiation available before you begin. Jacqueline has used Concur before, but she needs to understand how to set up an expense report for a credit card transaction, correctly code and allocate it, and attach the receipts so that she can submit the report. Let's join Jacqueline as she logs into Concur and creates an expense report to account for her credit card transactions. Once she logs in, Jacqueline sees that there are 2 transactions waiting for her there. Both of them came from a credit card transaction. She selects them and moves them over into the current report. Once there, she notes that there are several exceptions associated with the transactions. Her job is to go into each transaction and make sure that it is properly coded, that substantiation is provided, that the total in the report matches what's on the receipt, allocate it, attach the receipt, and save the transaction. It's very important that she code it properly. She is going to look in the syllabus for the chart of accounts, the cheat sheet that helps her understand how to properly code and allocate the expenses. It's also very important that Jacqueline properly allocate her expenses, and she's going to choose the 2016 standard allocation that she has uploaded into Concur previously. After Jacqueline has allocated and saved the first transaction, she goes into the second, and it's going to be coded differently from the first. This particular transaction is associated with another type of activity, and she's going to be sure to check the chart of accounts, the cheat sheet, to make sure that she selects the proper project code. In this case, it's 1001, and the cheat sheet tells her that it does not need to be allocated. She makes sure that all of the other codes associated with the project are correct. Once the expense is properly allocated, Jacqueline wants to make sure that she attaches the receipt associated with the transaction. Jacqueline believes that she's removed all the exceptions and coded everything appropriately, but just to make sure, she mouses over each transaction one more time. She can see her allocations, the receipts, and the actual credit card transaction. She's ready to submit. Jacqueline has successfully allocated her expense report in Concur. In doing so, she understands how important it is to Lee's work that she be thoughtful and accurate in her coding. If she has any follow-up questions, she can always reach out to the finance team as noted in the contact information here. Now there are 10 quiz questions. Let's see how you do.